No, you're wrong in your question. Number one, Venezuela is a major source, and the reason why is the following. And I've seen a lot of this reporting, and it's fake reporting, and I'll tell you why. It says that somehow Venezuela is not involved in the drug trade because the UN says they're not involved in the UN. I don't care what the UN says. The UN doesn't know what they're talking about. Maduro is indicted by a grand jury in the Southern District of New York. That means the Southern District of New York presented the evidence to a grand jury, and a grand jury indicted him. And then a superseding indictment came out that was unsealed about a year and a half ago that specifically detailed Maduro's actions. So number one, let there be no doubt, Nicolas Maduro is an indicted drug trafficker in the United States, and he's a fugitive of American justice.
Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders and bishops of Great Millstone who taught us this truth and continually teach us this truth. Peace. Alright, I'm back. I'm going to just merge the videos together. Had got a phone call when I was in the intro in the video, but peace, love, and salutations to the hopeful elect that's laboring in his word and truth and sincerity, Lord willing. This could be an edifying video. Okay, not gonna be a long video. I was inspired by the video Apostle Tahar put up going into, Trump is threatening to take Denmark. Okay, it's the U.S. is receiving backlash from its allies for what it did in Venezuela. Okay, Germany, I'm seeing reports of Germany calling it out. Okay, France ain't with it. Okay, and everybody is seeing war is inevitable with these motherfuckers. And Babylon is emboldened. Okay, this is 250 years. This is the 250th year of Babylon. And, they had it at the football games. They had it on the field. I didn't see it, but I was watching it with the brother, and he said he's seen it. I just couldn't catch it, but these devils are proud, man. They're talking shit now. They're boasting. You had Pete Hegseth say, "Oh, the Russian defenses didn't do anything." Just popping big shit, man. And what they did was against international law. And I seen another report where it say the UN is pretty much worried about they're not gonna say America. Okay, it's gonna get to that point where they gonna do it. They just gonna say everybody's gonna get tired of this bitch and start calling it out by name. You already got Russia and China and some other nations that do it, but the UN were saying, we're worried about nations not keeping, not following international law. And that's how that this third woe is inevitable. Okay, and it's a lot of reports coming out that they're about to do an attack in Iran. It's a whole lot with that. The protesters and Trump saying that if Iran hurts the protesters, they're going to jump in, and it's a whole mess. Okay, but this is prophecy. The least of the flock shall draw them out. We bring it out all the time. Okay, and it's also coming out that part of the reason why the U.S. did that operation in Venezuela is because nobody wants to purchase oil in dollars anymore. So they're trying to, pretty much have a lot of oil, and it also got to do with silver, because silver been jumping up. And they took, I forget the exact numbers in the metro tons of silver from Venezuela, and they're taking their gold. So what they did was illegal, but this shows you that Babylon is at its end. They're just waging war on any and everybody, man. Okay? But these other nations, they're not afraid of you. That's why they're going to rise up against you in battle, as the scriptures say. Okay, but I want to start off here. Matter of fact, let me grab this. This Genesis chapter 27, verse 39. So this is the blessing that Isaac gave Esau. Because Esau, he was supplanted. And he started crying like, damn, bless me, Father, bless me. And the nigga, and that's how you know that Esau, his descendants are the so-called white people today, because he didn't want to accept accountability. Like, nigga, you sold your birthright. It was a fair exchange. But you want to say that which today Edomites will say, oh, Jacob stole it. Hey, you could call it what you wanted, man. The Lord was with it. Okay, but this is verse 39. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven from above. Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. This devil is everywhere in the earth. Okay, he's in the best parts of the earth. Okay, they have islands, and it's obvious that this is the so-called white man's world. Okay, the Edomites. Okay, it says, and by thy sword thou shalt live. And what that means is through his military might. Okay, through his technology, his military might, that's how he rules. Okay, he rape, robs, and murders. Okay. And I'm not gonna lie, that operation they did in Venezuela, when you look at videos on it, it was cold. It was cold, but the Lord ultimately, set that up, ordained that, and at the end of the day, Esau is gonna lose his blessing. And as the scriptures say, we're gonna narrowly look upon him and be like, is this the man that shook kingdoms? So right now, I would say, he's feared, but, these other nations, they're ready, man. Putin is popping more shit, they're ready to go to war with you now. All right, that's why, and we brought this out at camp. I'm gonna grab it though. Okay. This Joel chapter 3 verse 10, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. So these nations are preparing to fight. Okay, that's why they're doing military drills right now. Iran is doing missile drills. Okay, North Korea just shot 2, believe it was ballistic missiles or hypersonic missiles. Okay, they did a test on those. Okay, war is brewing in the earth, and everybody is saying that there is no, you can't be diplomatic with Babylon. You just can't talk to these people. You can't talk to the tiny tops. The only language they understand is war. Okay, so the weak is saying they're strong now. These nations that were considered weak, now they're strong because Russia has been given North Korea technology to where they were able to put a satellite up. Okay, they've been giving Iran weapons. China's been giving them weapons. Okay, China has a missile called, it's something 51, something like that. It could carry 50 warheads and 1 hydrogen bomb. And the Goop, he said, yeah, we will never fire the first shot, but we will make sure you won't be able to fire the second. That's why when nuclear war happens, hey, they're going to shoot everything they got. Because it ain't going to be no, we hit them up and then, they can retaliate and then we got to hit them again with nukes. Once the nukes get to flying, it's a wrap. Okay? Now, Esau, once again, and this proves that this nigga knows that like the scriptures say, he's coming with great wrath because he know that he have but a short time. Okay, we always bring it out because we know that he's going to come hard on the tribes and move forward with his agenda, which he's doing. But also, we could apply that to how he's coming to the other nations militarily, because he sees Russia and China, he sees them as a threat. Okay, he sees the BRICS as a threat. That's why Trump himself said, yeah, they're trying to do away with the dollar. losing the dollar is worse than losing a world war, something like that. Trump said. So they're gonna go to war over this, man. Everybody's going digital, but Babylon wants to be number one in the AI world, in the digital currency. Okay, but this is Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 4. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. So Esau, he's not right. Okay, and the just is the elect. All right, they shall live by faith, right? Verse 5, yeah, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man. And Esau is proud. And we're seeing it, at an all-time high right now. These devils is saying, yeah, no more white guilt. You had Vance say you don't have to be sorry for being white anymore. And, now they playing the victim and they're getting emboldened. Calling Jake, the N-word, and, you got this Edomite, he go around bothering Jake's, calling them the N-word. Like, hey, these devils are emboldened right now, man. Okay? And no matter what comes out on Nero, you got Edomites, they gonna ride for that nigga no matter what. Okay? It says, neither keepeth at home. Right, he's everywhere. He's all up in Ukraine, trying to, be on the border with Russia, which Finland, I believe, is on the border with Russia. But they're trying to, expand NATO more eastward, which is breaking an agreement they had. Okay, they're in Taiwan, they're everywhere, man. They just can't stay home. They everywhere but Mount Seir. Okay? Now Babylon would be, modern day Basra. We always, bring that out in Isaiah the 34th chapter. Okay, which is the capital of Edom. But, these devils, they don't even just stay here. They always doing, covert operations in other lands. It says, who enlargeth his desire as hell and is as death and cannot be satisfied. And this devil, everywhere he goes, he brings death. Okay? But gathereth unto him all nations and heapeth unto him all people. Shall not all these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long unto him that ladeth himself with thick clay? Now, when you look up that word clay, it means depth. And the depth is at an all-time high. That's why they're going to have to bring in a new system, which is the digital blockchain, okay, which is going to lead to the MOTB, the implantable device that you won't be able to buy or sell unless you have it. Okay, but like it says, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. The operation they just did in Venezuela, man, these devils, you heard what Marco Rubio said. They don't care what the UN says. When they got questioned about getting approval from Congress, they pretty much, they're just doing their own thing. They don't give a damn. All right. And this is just the beginning, man. Them tiny tops, man, they're man. Because they know that, once again, the devil has come with great wrath because he know that he have but a short time. Okay, they see Russia and China and North Korea and, these different nations, siding with Iran, and they see everything that's going on, but they're proud. They don't give a fuck. They don't care about their allies. Because Greenland, I believe they're a part of NATO. I have to look it up. Denmark, I believe they're a part of NATO. So it's and Trump is saying the president of I think Cuba said he need to watch his ass, and that video they put up on the White House. Man, these devils are proud, man. But rightfully so. Let them be. All right? Because his pride is gonna be his own demise. All right? But Lord willing, this was an edifying video. With that, I'm gonna say shalom.